Today marks the 6th anniversary of the massacre at the Sandy Hook Elementary School in Newtown, Connecticut. 20 children and 6 adults were murdered.
Since the Sandy Hook shooting in 2014, there have been at least 239 school shootings nationwide. And with rising public concerns over increased school shootings, schools all over the country have increased their security. Here at good old PHS, we are no different. Petoskey has now implemented new security standards. The school is now required to lock all classroom doors, along with the doors going to the outside of the building. The only way to get into the school during the day is to go to the front door and be buzzed in by secretaries who can see the person that is being buzzed in and has to unlock the door for them. Some students and teachers complain that the security is unnecessary, as the chances of there being a shooting at the school is very unlikely, and they believe that the shooters could still get around our security system if they really tried. While administration, the public, and the police department see this as necessary to protect our students from any kind of threat to their safety, we decided that we would have an interview with some of the students, teachers, and administration around the building to find out more about Petoskey security and what people think about it. The first person we decided to sit down with was Dr. Stewart. We thought she could give us some good insight on what the administration's beliefs were when it came to the school's security.
I'm going to ask you, how are potential threats identified?
We work with the Department of Public Safety, so when a concern gets observed or reported to us, we always contact them first so that we have an expert in the room in the area to be able to evaluate the situation. We have really good response time with our Department of Public Safety, so it's been a great partnership.
All right. Why do we lock the doors? Both outside and inside doors.
Research-based, when we were taught by experts who came in to talk to us about security, they said the very first line of defense is a locked door. And when they study many school violence concerns that they've responded to, the locked door seems to be the most effective barrier to keep students safe.
Okay.
So in all of their studies, no one had been actually shot and injured if there was a locked door barrier.
If a stranger really wanted to get into the building, do you think they could?
I think we've done some very effective barriers where there's always a concern is human error. We've tried to be really proactive with students to not let people into the building, but sometimes it's hard to explain to kids, especially in the elementary, to not open up a door for an adult. So I think we've put all the possible barriers in education, but there is always a chance.
So to Dr. Stewart in the Public Safety Office, it is very much worth it to lock the doors. But we decided we'd sit down with a student who's enrolled in early college and often has to make the transition from outside to inside the high school.
Worth it to lock the doors?
It depends on where you are. So in Petoskey, it's probably not that necessary, but whereas like inner city, I know you definitely do want to lock the doors, but like in Petoskey, no one cares. I know a kid who leaves his car unlocked with the keys in the dash. So no, it's not necessary to lock the doors in Petoskey, but yes, it is necessary to lock the doors in other cities.
How are potential threats identified and stopped from coming into our school?
That's a great question. I assume that the best way is kind of what we're doing right now, have the buzz in, buzz out, so if you see anyone looking shady, that's probably, I can't think of a better way to do it.
All right. How easy is it to get into the school?
I mean, it's pretty easy for a student, obviously. I don't know how it is for any older people, because for me personally, I just ring the doorbell and they'll let me in.
If a stranger really wanted to get into the school, do you think they could?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Because they say don't open doors for anybody unless... They say just don't open doors for anybody in general, but if you see someone outside, I know I'll definitely open the door for them. Doesn't matter who they are.
According to Aaron, he does not see the school security as necessary in Petoskey due to our low crime rate and safe atmosphere that we have as a city. But according to the SunSentinel.com, of the 10 deadliest school shootings in the U.S., all but one took place in a small town with fewer than 75,000 residents, and the vast majority of them were in cities with fewer than 50,000 residents. So just because a town is small and has low crime does not mean it is not possible to have a school shooting there. It's actually even more likely than a large urban city.
As an early college student, do you find it annoying having to buzz in and buzz out all the time?
I don't really mind it. I don't really care. I don't think it's an additional 5 seconds of my day that I have to wait, so I don't think it's a big deal.
We also decided to sit down with a student who was at the high school the whole day and never has to check in or out for college classes.
The doors are worth it.
I don't think locking the doors is that worth it in northern Michigan with the lack of security threats that we have compared to higher population cities.
All right. Do you think our system right now would be able to stop a shooter?
I do not think fully because usually the people in the office just let kids in no matter what. It's easy to hide something, and it's really not that hard to get in the school right now.
Do you think locking both the inside doors and outside doors is necessary, or should we just do one or the other?
I don't think it's that necessary, and also, like, as of right now, all of the doors don't really necessarily need to be locked compared to maybe I could see other schools, but not this school in the place that we are at and what students are known for here.
If a stranger really wanted to get into the school, do you think they could?
I think they could get to the office pretty easily, and if they were determined enough, I feel like they could get into the school, but they definitely could get into the office area.
The main thing that we came away with these interviews from was how big of a role human error plays in our school safety. Locking the doors could be very effective in stopping any kind of threat or completely useless. It all depends on how the students and faculty follow the training that they have. We decided we would interview one more person, and we decided to interview Mr. Gross. He brought an interesting perspective to this debate we were having. Mr. Gross thought it was a good idea to lock the doors because it has stopped most intruders from getting inside the schools, as Dr. Stewart previously mentioned. Even though the odds of our school being shot are extremely low, considering that out of the 98,000 public schools in America, there's been shootings at 239 of them, he still thinks it's a good idea to lock the doors. Mr. Gross thinks that we haven't focused on the issue, though. He brought up the statistic that the number of drug overdoses for kids 15 through 24 years of age is 5,455 kids a year. He argues that the ages 19 through 24 matter just as much as the 15 through 18-year-olds because the most users start using drugs in high school, which opens up the gate to overdosing. Mr. Gross said that dealing with drugs should become more important because of the amount of lives that are lost every year and that drugs are available in pretty much every school. While school shootings are much less common out of the 98,000 public schools in the U.S., there's only been shootings at 239 of them, and there is much less deaths caused by school shootings as well. Should schools lock their doors? Do we focus too much on this issue at PHS? Well, we're not sure. This is a complex issue. It does not have an easy answer. But based on the interviews we have done, we think that the security system is worth it. Even though the risk of the school being shot up are extremely low, we think it's the best thing we can do at the time.